Good morning.
Good morning.
Give me 1 second just to arrange a couple things. How are
Okay,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Um, I guess I'm pretty good. Um, the I'm tired of. I can't wait till we get through November.
Yeah, I bet.
Um, it's just wearing me out. Um, so what is the job you have now?
Right now, I'm serving tables at Storm Rum Bar
Oh
downtown.
yes. Now I remember. Yeah, Govinda was telling me about it. I just forgotten for a second. Um, I'm getting old.
It's okay. It's not ideal, but it's paying the bills right now. So
Is it I was going to ask you. Uh, um, I used to wait on tables, and with COVID, is it just from a waiter's perspective? How has COVID affected?
it's hard. It's really hard. We're at half capacity, so like all of our tables are every other one is closed. And people can't come in if they have a temperature over 99.
Oh, you
They
take the temperature?
Yeah, we take their temperature at the door.
Oh, good
Um,
for you.
yeah, which people get pissed off at. They can't walk around any public space unless they have a mask on. We have to wear a mask and gloves the entire time we're on our shift. The way we serve tables is different now because like we have to obviously take an order from like 6 feet back. um, I try and like touch stuff as little as possible on the table. It's tough. It's really tough.
Let's actually, it occurs to me. Let's save. And did I lose you? Why? Oh no, that's yeah. No, my monitor went blank. I don't know why.
Oh, huh.
Um, but anyway, and how is married life?
Oh, it's good. We're
Oh,
good.
good. I mean, yeah, I wasn't going to ask. I mean, I knew it would be a nice answer.
Yeah.
Would have been awkward if it wasn't. Um,
Leaving.
oh yeah, we're pretty. Where did I just? Oh, I'm sitting here looking for my pad, and I'm sitting here with it 1 inch from me. Have you ever had that? I remember one time I was talking to someone on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I said something like, I was so used to using the phone though as a computer, and
Yep.
I said, I'll get back to you when I can find my damn phone, because I was looking for it the whole time I'm talking to them.
Yep.
And as soon as I said it, I went, oh, wow.
I did that, but luckily I was talking to my mom on the phone, so it wasn't anybody important.
Um, well, on a separate note,
Mhm.
I'll let you know, and this is very chancy at the moment, but and I think I've mentioned it before, Butch and I have realized that we can't do the things that we want to with just now that we're doing so much more with all volunteer. And so
Yeah.
I am trying to think about how we would uh, um, craft someone who in a paid role to play something. And I'd love to talk to you about that at some point. But
Definitely.
anyway, um, okay. I would love if you have the time. I love the cat.
Yeah, they're gonna be in and out all,
Oh,
all
that's
later.
fine. Um, I would love to do 2 interviews if we could.
Yeah.
And one would be for the oral history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your interview in the sense that it's telling whatever story you want. And that's for Blue Ridge Pride. The other one is putting on for me a different hat.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Asheville View, interviewing you as I, if I say as a member of the drag community, is that a term you would use, or okay? It just occurred to me. I realized I don't know if you guys think of yourself as a community. You know, like when people say, "Yeah, I want to talk to one of them gay folk."
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a community as much as we hate each other sometimes.
I've noticed. I'd love to talk to, and in that one, and it's fine if they overlap, but in that one, what I'll be interested in are a couple things. One, I want to, that's why I stopped on your job, because it actually, I think that'd be a great thing for you to talk about what it's,
Yeah.
just talk to Asheville about giving them a dose of reality. And then the other thing I'd like to talk about is where the audience now are people who are not LGBTQ,
Yeah.
who don't go to see drag, and I want to talk more about um, the not the not the styles and the fashions and all that stuff, more the life and the business and the how are
Yeah.
people getting by and stuff like that. Which one do you want to do first? It's so
Whichever.
good to see you.
It doesn't bother me.
Okay. Um, why don't we start with you and let me, and I'm going to go by, I didn't look, did you have a chance to just fill in that little intake form?
I did the intake form. I couldn't sign the release form. It said that I needed permission to access it. So
Shit.
I requested permission, but I couldn't actually sign it.
Okay, I'll send you permission.
Okay.
Damn it, let me write that down. I wonder if I sent you permission to sign, because you shouldn't have to have that. Huh.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know what.
And if when you get it, so it was you had to have permission to sign it, not you could open it, you just couldn't sign it.
I couldn't open it either.
Oh wow, so it's to open or sign form. Okay, I will work on that, and then you probably know your way around computers, so you can upload it if you save it. If you have any difficulty, your worst case is you just take a picture with your
Yeah.
phone and send it to me or whatever. So I'm going to, and were there things just to help me? My goal is to play as light a role in this interview as possible so that it comes across as a narrative, and some people just need a little help.
Yeah.
Are there, like well, I think you'll be fine, so I won't even, how do you want me for this interview to name you?
Lane or Natasha, either or.
Okay, so I'll just,
Or both.
and is it just Natasha or Natasha Noir Knightley?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's your full drag name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think I'll say with Lane Wagner, AKA Natasha Noir Knightley.
That works. Yeah.
Okay. And what, this is just my intro for sort of identifying the interview. I'm just going to repeat this information.
Yeah.
What year were you born?
1994.
Okay. God damn it. I hate young people because I want to have been born then. And what city?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you live there a long time? I guess I'm going to find out in a few minutes.
Yeah, I lived there for 8 years, and then we moved to West Lafayette, Indiana, for another 8.
Wow. Okay. And well, actually, I want to make an assumption. Preferred pronouns?
They, them.
Okay. And you've been living in Asheville. Are you living in Asheville?
Yeah, I'm here. I think I'm coming up on 7 years now.
Okay. Been living. Okay. Okay. Great. Were you ready to begin?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it is recording. Okay, good. All right. I did an interview, not to scare you, um, and it didn't record, but the last two I've done recorded, but so now I'm
Okay.
paranoid. Um, and everything seems to be working. Okay. One other note, um, it'll be easy for us to cut whole segments of an interview if you said later on, I'd like you to take out that place name or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't do it, but we can edit a transcript. It's harder to edit over or replace something in a tape. We can remove it. So if you get to something where you want to start over, just say, let's cut that and go back. And that way,
Gotcha.
whoever's transcribing this will know that. Fantastic. And today is September 6th. Okay. All right. Well, today is September 6th. I am Tina White, and I am talking to Lane Wagner, also known as Natasha Noir Knightley. Lane was born in 1994 in Indianapolis, Indiana. They prefer pronouns they and them, and they have been living in Asheville for 7 years. Lane, it's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too.
Well, let me just open it up by asking, how do you like to describe yourself to people?
I like what do I identify sexuality gender wise?
Describe in the broadest sense, if someone just said, so tell me about you, sort of, how would you?
Yeah. Well, I am a non-binary pansexual person, and I'm a dancer. I'm a drag queen. I'm a sex educator, and I like to do a lot of craft things. Yeah, I kind of like to describe myself as a person of many trades, expert of none.
A Renaissance they.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is about capturing your story. When you tell your story, where do you like to begin?
God, it really depends on like what part of it I'm telling. I grew up in a really conservative part of Indiana. I was born in Indianapolis and lived there until I was about 8. And then my dad got a new job in West Lafayette, right around where Purdue is. And so we moved there, and I was there from 8 until just before my 16th birthday. And those were like some really formative years, because once you're 8 or 9, you get to like go out and play and everything, like with friends, and you don't have to, it's not like a play date anymore. And I like to say that being born in, like, Indiana was a good place to grow up, but North Carolina was a good place to mature, because in Indiana, like, the town I grew up in didn't even have a stoplight. Like, we had a train track. It was so tiny. And the town we ended up moving to Winston-Salem when we moved to North Carolina, and that was so much bigger, and there was so much more to do, and there were so many people with different like views on politics and all types of issues, that we actually moved to a more liberal place, moving down to the Bible Belt. So I didn't really come out until I was 16, after we had moved, and maybe 17. And but I had like known that I was queer from very early on. Sorry, my computer's making weird noises. But I was afraid to come out, because in where I grew up in Indiana, one of my best friends came out really, really early on. I think he came out in like 4th or 5th grade, and he was bullied mercilessly, and like got dumped into a dumpster, and was just generally physically harassed a lot. And even I, as like a more feminine kid was I was stabbed on our school bus. I had chunks of my hair cut off at recess. People threw things at me. I got called so many horrific names. And the only gay people that I knew growing up was, in Indiana at least, there were a few in my high school, but they all dropped out. They all lived in the same apartment complex, and they all worked at either convenience stores or at the mall. And that's what I thought happened when you came out, is that you couldn't go to school, you couldn't go to college. So it was not great. And then when we moved to Winston-Salem, everybody was queer. Like there were so many people who were out at my high school, and I was so overwhelmed because I thought, we're going to be moving to the Bible Belt. It's going to be awful. Things are going to be terrible. People are going to be worse about, me being effeminate. And they weren't. They were amazing and really awesome. And my choir teacher was gay, and my band director was gay, and he was married to the color guard instructor. And they were out and had gone all the way through a master's program, higher education. And it opened my eyes a lot to the fact that you could be queer and successful. And I came out shortly thereafter because I realized that colleges wouldn't kick me out for being gay. And so that was kind of nice. And yeah, so that was really my coming to terms with myself.
How did you come out? Or was it a singular?
I came out in 3 days. I came out to my girlfriend at the time first, which did not go well. I came out to my parents second and my friend group third. And my parents were super amazing about it. I'm very blessed to come from a very supportive family. I came down, downstairs in tears, telling my parents there's something really important I want to talk to you about. I don't know. It's a big deal. I hope you're not mad, all this stuff. And I told them, I'm not straight. And my dad goes, and okay. My mom was like, is that it? That's it? That's all. And because I'm finding out later, my mom thought that I had done something awful or stole something. My dad thought there was gang activity or something. They were just immediate worst case scenarios, oh, he killed someone, it's fine. But yeah, no, it was really, really, I'm blessed to have very supportive parents. And after I came out, a lot of my friends who came out and had not so great experiences with their parents would live with us for a little while. My mom, I like to say, had a halfway hotel for all of Winston-Salem's queer youth. She would put anybody up in our spare room and feed them, make sure they got to school and did their homework and everything. So it was really amazing.
You've been using the word queer a lot, and I'm just curious. It only surprised me because I didn't know, was that the term in use then, or are you just using today's terms for them?
I'm using it kind of today's terms. For me, queer is such an umbrella term that I use it a lot when talking about most things in my life, because I don't really fit in a lot of specific boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so having an umbrella term tends to fit me better, just because I kind of fluctuate between so many different specific identifiers that I don't really know if I can claim any of them. And when I came out in high school, I knew that I wasn't gay, but I also was I don't know if I'm bi, and those were the only two things that you could be. And so I use queer a lot when referencing younger me because there was a lot of confusion with what I identified as. And so it kind of, it fits better back then as well, even though I know I wouldn't call myself queer back then. I probably would have identified as gay just because it was easier. So.
At that time, were there people or events or groups that played a particularly profound role in sort of you wrapping your head around your identity or your future?
Yeah, I was in theater and I was in marching band and I was in the color guard on the marching band. And like I said, my band director was gay and he is married to the color guard instructor who's also gay. And they became some of my biggest role models in life, let alone as like as a queer individual. And actually, they ended up moving up to Asheville after I did. And so I got to teach with them again, and I got to live with them when I was a stripper for a little while. And they I kind of describe them as like my gay uncles that I never had, because they really helped me a lot. Um, and then peer group wise, the theater department at my high school was super open and super welcoming. My theater teacher was a costumer and costume designer for a drag queen who was on tour for like, I don't remember, I think it was like 5 or 6 years. And so she was like in Vegas doing costumes for a Vegas drag queen kind of thing. And so she told us stories about that, about performing. I learned costuming from her, learned a lot about specific like costuming techniques. Um, and she just fostered a really open and safe place. And then there were a lot of really amazing kids in both the theater department and the color guard. Um, I was bullied pretty intensely in Indiana, and so I came with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to my new high school in North Carolina. And a lot of times, things would be said to me, and I thought that I would need to be the one to like stand up for myself, because my friend group back in Indiana didn't really stick up for me at all ever. Um, and so when I moved here, I was like, I just met all these people. They're not gonna, if I have to fight somebody, they're not gonna be there for me. They're just gonna like, watch just like my old friends did. And the first time anybody ever said anything sideways to me, an entire group of like 14 to 16-year-old girls like full on scream matched this guy into submission without me having to lift a finger. And it was one of the most amazing things, because it was like I found a community that would stick up for me and actually like would help out if I ever needed anything. And I got closer to those people in a matter of weeks, honestly. They were so amazing and so supportive, and really like defined what I view as like support and allyship, because they were so amazing. And we had things like, we had a thing called alt prom in Winston-Salem, where it was like put on by a community queer youth organization. Um, but it was always kind of weird, just because there was a lot of it didn't really feel like a safe space, just based off the other kids who attended. And I tried going like twice in my sophomore and junior year of high school, and it just never felt right. um, and I don't really know why. I just never really felt comfortable in that specific space. And I don't know if it was because the people in attendance just weren't anybody that I would vibe with, or the leadership was kind of back, not really involved, but it was kind of a little strange. So I never really went to any of the community queer organizations in Winston-Salem. So yeah.
What's it like inside? What happens to you inside? How does bullying affect someone? How did it affect you?
It made me so angry. Um, I never really was afraid. I can't say. Um, but it definitely, I still deal with a lot of anger issues that I know come from when I was bullied. Like, I, I've never been, the fight or flight response. I've never been the flight. I've always been the fight. And I really think that that was partly because of how I was bullied when I was in like elementary and middle school. Um, it made me not really like trust people very easily. And I react to things a lot of the times with anger instead of being able to be calm and rational about it. Because if you got angry, people would stop bothering you. I kind of learned, because I've always been on the smaller side. I was a gymnast for a long time, but I never really like gained mass. I was always like the short, skinny kid. Um, and so I was physically a lot smaller than a lot of my peers and a lot of the people who were making fun of me. But I kind of learned that if you are, more petite, if you are crazy, people don't bother you because you're unpredictable and like that it's unsafe. And so a lot of times I would kind of like spiral and put myself into this like raving mad state where I was like throwing things and screaming and like, running around and like being really aggressive as much as I could, just to kind of like put on airs to make people not hurt me because I was small, angry, and loud. And that kind of stuck with me all the way through now, honestly, where I feel like if I'm ever threatened, I start to get into that state and have to like actually calm myself down to look at things rationally. So it's definitely stuck with me. I think there's less of a shame-based approach to how I react to bullying, mostly because I was petty enough to be like, well, I'm just going to be, the biggest fag you ever saw if you're going to keep doing this. And so I've never been ashamed from being bullied. It just honestly gave me like anger issues.
So, what brought you to Asheville?
I was dating a guy in college. I started school at Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina, and I was scholarshiped into a teaching program. And it was a private school. It was super expensive, and without the scholarship, I couldn't afford to be there. And so I started dating this guy, and we hit it off really well. He transferred into Catawba out of a super crazy Christian school. And then after my first year, his first semester there, I did not like the teaching department. I didn't like what it was saying or what it was standing for. I didn't like the rules and regulations around teaching. And it just wasn't a good fit for me, but I fell in love with sociology. And so I transferred out partly also because the guy I was dating wanted to transfer out. And so we were looking for programs that fit the both of us. And so we ended up at UNC Asheville, him for philosophy, and me for gender studies. And I won't say I regret it, but it was not the smartest decision for me to follow a boy. I'd never do that. Um, and so we ended up breaking up. He ended up transferring out of UNC Asheville, and I just stayed. And I graduated and had already made so many connections and community here that I didn't really want to leave. And so I just kind of stuck around and haven't left yet.
Now you're involved in the drag community. How did you get involved in that?
So when I was 21, um, I was doing a little bit of modeling just to make some extra money for school and for food. And I kind of veered off a little bit into like nude erotic modeling because it paid more. Um, and from there, I got contacted, I don't even remember on where, to be a go-go boy at O'Henry's, which is a gay club here in Nashville. Um, and so I was a go-go boy for a couple months, and just to make money for school and for a dance team that I was competing with. I needed gas money and food money. And I met drag queens while I was a go-go boy there. And I noticed a lot of what they were doing, and like I appreciated the fact that like their makeup was good and their costumes were like crazy, but I thought I could do it better. Um, and it's just, I'm just honest with you, I thought I could do it better. And so there was a student drag show at UNCA. And so I entered in as Natasha Knightley, and I painted my face for the first time, and it was so bad. I didn't know what I was doing. I kept my normal eyebrows. I was basically in a bra and a like a skirt one of my friends gave me, and a blonde Party City wig. I didn't even have a beard then the first time I performed. And I performed as a trio with two of my girlfriends, and we did like a Nicki Minaj song, I think. And I had so much fun. And so the next time it came around, I did it again, but I did it as a solo. And I picked the name Natasha Knightley again. And I did Buttons by the Pussycat Dolls and still painted horribly. And in the picture of taking of myself, I was in this like $12 wig that I thought looked so good. Victoria's Secret bra that one of my friends gave me, and a jean skirt that I made by myself. But in the process of making it, I cut my finger really, really badly in my dorm, but I didn't have Band-Aids because I was a broke college kid. And so I wrapped it in a paper towel and then taped it up with red electrical tape. And because I was doing drag, I put a nail on it, like a stick-on fingernail. And so in the picture of me like in the bathroom feeling myself with this horrible mug, you can see me holding my phone with this like huge gauzy electrical tape with this itty bitty dainty press-on fingernail on top. And so that was my first time performing solo. And I had to leave early because it happened on a Saturday, and I danced at O'Henry's on Friday and Saturday. So you can actually see a lot of the like pole dance bruises on my like side from go-go dancing in the drag picture too, which is just kind of dumb. But from there, I met one of my best friends also did drag, and they were so much better at it than I was. They painted beautifully. Their whole face was just stunning. And so we started hanging out more and doing makeup more. I started practicing on my own, and then I got adopted by a drag queen in town, and that's where I picked the name, my middle name, Noir. We were House Acrylic, and we were all named after colors. So every drag queen had a color in their name. And I kind of got whipped into shape a little bit. And I started backup dancing for some of the drag queens in town. And anytime I went to a drag show, I would go in drag, because there were only two places to do drag at this point in Asheville drag history. And it was O. Henry's and Scandals. And I started doing drag with a beard, primarily because I was in a dance company and I was known, we were like known nationally. And I was known for being the only guy on the dance team as with a beard. And so I had a whole fan following of people who knew me because of my beard. And so I didn't want to shave it off when I started doing drag because people knew me with a beard out of drag. And so I started doing bearded drag, and everyone was like, this is so revolutionary. You're an alt queen. And so it just kind of stuck. I never shaved for drag for like really vain reasons. And then it turned into like a political statement. And then I started, I was with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for a little while. And I started kind of becoming more established, I guess, as a drag queen. My first performance was a burlesque night at O. Henry's. It was called Cherry Bomb. And so I did a cannibal themed, it was a Halloween show. So it was a cannibal themed drag number. And that was my first like paid professional performance. And I started competing in talent shows after that, and just kind of bit bopped around town here, Charlotte, Rock Hill, and Johnson City. And then I got a call from Priscilla Chambers, and she wanted me to perform in the second iteration of Party Foul at the auditorium. And that's really where my drag got started. I helped get that show up and running. I kind of solidified myself as a like good performer in town, and I used that as a springboard to compete in Miss Blue Ridge Pride and won my year. So we've come a long way from cutting our finger off and sticking a fake nail on it.
Yes, you have. Holy cow. Tell, I guess it's, yeah, we shouldn't worry about pauses. So today, and I don't mean like right now,
Mm-hmm.
but what role does drag play in your, well, tell me first what else you do in your life, and then what role is drag for you? Is it just performing, or what does it mean, or is it community? What spot does it fill in your life?
So I am a professional dancer. I dance with the Asheville Ballet, and I choreograph for them. I dance with a group in Charlotte called Martha Kinetic Works. I think that's their full name. And so I tour some with dance. I was a professor at UNCA for dance for a while after I graduated. And I do a lot of performing, not just drag, but like in general. And drag to me is a way of be of community activism, honestly. That's really where I got my start in drag, doing charity shows. And so it's always been less about me and more about the community, because as Natasha, I have an easier time having a platform than I do as Lane, because if Lane stands up at a bar and starts yelling at people about consent, Lane is just like a little white boy who's yelling. Whereas if Natasha is yelling about consent, people listen because she's a 6.5 foot tall glitter monster. And so it's just the using the privilege that I have as male presenting by putting on a pair of heels, doing feminine presenting things, because people tend to listen more. And so if I can utilize my gender studies degree while I'm on the mic talking to drunk people, it ends up doing more good in the community immediately. Because I am all about safe space. I'm all about claiming space in wherever you are. And as a drag queen, I'm kind of a symbol of claiming safe space. Because if a drag queen shows up somewhere and is like paid to perform, that space is now advertising to the queer community and wants queer money. And if a drag queen does their due diligence, that means they're not putting their community at risk. And I really like to help my community know where is safe, where can I go and be myself and still have a good time. And so that's really what drag ends up being for me. It's like it's an amplifier for my own political views and a tool to claim queer space.
So most of the people I've been talking to so far are in the autumn of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a lot of time looking back on different periods. Um, you're you're a spring chicken.
I,
You're in the spring of your life. Um, and it would be interesting, project forward
mm-hmm.
20 or 30 years from now, and if you were reflecting on your last 10 years, how would you hope that you would be describing it in terms of its role for you and for, well, not just your generation, for society? What do you how do you hope, what would be the bookend for this period?
Like, sorry, what do you mean?
Um, I just mean, how would you hope? People talk about the Vietnam War era or the protest era, or how would you characterize or hope that you'll look back and characterize, uh, um, focusing on just Asheville and sort of what's happened in Asheville in the last 10 years, what's happening right now? How would you describe it?
Weirdly enough, the last like 6 or 7 years for me being in Asheville, I think I would honestly describe it as like the drag revolution. Um, I'm only 26. I've been doing drag for 5 years now. And I feel like an old lady in the community. And it's so weird to say, but drag generations, you can kind of like group people who come out and start performing together as generations. And the queens in my generation changed a lot and started drag in places that didn't have it. And in my drag persona's lifetime, Asheville went from having two places who fought all the time, constantly over drag and drag queens, to we have drag in grocery stores now. Like there is a show at Hopi and Co. I get asked to do shows in pizza places. I get asked to do shows outside. There is so much drag in Asheville now. We have a plethora of places. And I feel like an old lady because a lot of these like younger queens, and I hate using that term, but queens that have come out more recently, excuse me, they all of a sudden decide they're like, well, I put a wig on and I know how to do makeup, so that means I'm a drag queen, I'm performing, and you need to book me, and I deserve to be performing right now. Even though like I just ordered this costume on Amazon, and you know, my wig is a lace front, all these things that I know from RuPaul's Drag Race, it's perfect, and you should book me. Whereas like I went to hundreds of drag shows in drag before I was ever allowed on stage. And like, you had to beg to even be a backup dancer as a drag queen in a talent. And it just took more work because there were only two places to perform. And now you have baby queens starting up shows when they have no business doing anything. They don't know anything about it. So I feel old in a sense that like I am old enough to be like, back in my day in drag, when it was really only like 3 years ago. But it's changed so fast in the last 7 years that like, if you don't want to wear hip pads, you don't have to wear hip pads. You don't want to wear boobs, don't wear boobs. If you're gonna paint like 6 eyes on your face with like one eyebrow, unifying them all, that's valid, that's drag. Whereas like myself and my sister and a lot of the queens that came out with us, I was considered revolutionary because I didn't shave. But like, you better believe I was still painting on a human face. You know, I wasn't going out painting like a cat. I wasn't going out painting like a rabbit because no one would book me. That was not a thing. We stepped up the weird level a little bit, but a lot now is so far out there. Like alternative drag has taken a foothold recently. And I just think I think it's great, but I definitely am going to look back, you know, 20, 30 years from now and like remember being in like the pivot point generation of drag, really. It's amazing to see, and I'm glad to have been a part of it. I think it's evident that it did change based on the fact that I won Miss Blue Ridge Pride as a bearded queen. I was the first bearded queen in North Carolina to win a pride title, if not the East Coast. And that was like, to me, that is just a testament to how much drag has changed since I started, honestly.
That's cool. You do sound middle-aged when you talk about that. That's funny.
Right? It's weird.
Um, what role? I'm trying to think of how to ask I'm trying to think of what question I'm really asking. What role has race played in your life and in the drag community?
So in Indiana, there were white people, more white people, and because we were near Purdue, there were some people of South Asian descent, but there were, and there are very few of those. Um, when moving down south, all of a sudden everything became a lot more diverse, and in turn actually became a lot more accepting, weirdly enough. Um, I am of the opinion that, you know, just because we're in the South doesn't mean that everything is racist. Because there was a lot more overt racism up north than there was down here. Um, Specifically in the drag community, Asheville is a very whitewashed town. Um, and that's reflected in the drag community as well. Um, there are not a lot of queens of color, kings of color in Asheville, and those that are sometimes tokenized in the fact that it's like, oh, we need a diverse cast. We're gonna call either one of these two queens because we know that we need a person of color in the show, and it's not great because you, like, as someone who's been a show director, you want your cast to be diverse, but you also, like, can't expect those two drag queens to show up at every single thing, and because that's just exhausting. And so it's been tough to try and encourage a community that is more diverse, because there's not a diverse community that's prevalent in Asheville that's like interested in participating in drag. It's been really difficult to try and change that aspect of Asheville drag culture. Um, I want to. I just, like, other than keeping places open and keeping the platform alive for anybody who wants to pursue drag to pursue it, I don't really know how I can change, or how I can like affect change in the community. And that's one of the biggest, like, struggles, I'd say, in Asheville drag, as like trying to make sure that we stay open, positive, and supportive of performers of color, but also not knowing how to encourage more people of color to do drag, you know?
When you were at UNCA,
Mm-hmm.
I believe the organization has changed its name.
Mm-hmm.
Were you active in the Pride organization, and what was it called then?
It was UNCA Alliance, I think, the Alliance Club. Um, and I was active in it, oh, sparingly, I would say. Um, when I was there, it was not a place that I really found myself most comfortable. Um, because when I got to college, I was confident in myself. I had no insecurities about my sexuality. I was young, dumb, and a huge slut. And so I had no qualms. There was nothing I was processing. There was nothing I was emotionally working on. There was stuff I should have been emotionally working on, but wasn't, but I didn't know it at the time. Um, and the Alliance Club was a lot of, at least when I was in school, it was a lot of holding space for people who were recently out, or who were recently in a queer space and needed help with language. Um, it was a lot of processing emotions and not a lot of celebrating who you were. And I was very much in the celebrating who I was stage of life, and less so the processing who I was. And so I honestly like kind of brushed off Alliance because I was, you know, I didn't need it. They were offering services that I just didn't personally need. And so I was kind of off on my own, doing my own thing for a long time. I always was there if they needed anything, but the leadership was not my favorite when I was there. They were chronically, um, they didn't get a lot done. And it kind of bothered me that things didn't get done, but I didn't want to become leadership because I knew that would be taking on a huge emotional burden. And I was not in a place that I knew that I could not be in a place for that. And so since graduating, they have become the Out Club, the UNCA Out. And they are a lot more active and a lot more directed and a lot more productive than they were in my time. And so I participate now as a mentor and alumni, and I help with their drag ball, which is the drag show that I started in. Um, and so that's kind of been how I've contributed now, as of, you know, as opposed to when I was actually in school.
Last question from my side. You can go on if there are other things that we haven't covered. If it's something you want to talk about, I'd love just to know about, not the intimate details of your marriage, but you're married, just what it was like. My generation didn't grow up with marriage equality and things, and so I was just curious how the role that your marriage has played in getting married and being married has played in your generation.
Um, we were the first people in our direct friend group to get married. And I honestly, like, it was kind of a dream come true for me. Because I remember when it became legal for us to get married. Um, and it was, I mean, I remember like sobbing at the kitchen table with my mom, thinking about it. But getting married was a huge deal uh, for us, and honestly for like our community microcosm and like our larger community. Um, I I'm not gonna like be fake humble. I was a pretty big figure in the community when we got engaged. Um, we got engaged on the Pride stage at when I was Miss Blue Ridge Pride. Um, a lot of yeah,
I didn't
um,
know that.
yeah. Send you the video. Um, I did a whole speech about like Pride. I kind of said Pride was a riot against the police, but I didn't say that because they told me I couldn't. Um, and then I started talking a little bit more about, you know, Marsha P. And Sylvia, and then I called up Govinda on stage and proposed in front of the biggest pride that we've ever had, and it and so a lot of people saw us get engaged, and when because it was, you know, I was a drag queen, Govinda was a drag queen, um, and we ended up having 3 weddings. Um, we had our legal one, we had our spiritual one, and then we had a drag wedding. And so we were celebrated a lot, and it was a beautiful thing for so many people to get excited about. Um, Not only at, you know, Pride, because there was 1,000 people watching, but also at the auditorium. We had a drag wedding where, you know, we said vows and our drag personas got married. And it was, you know, it was a Valentine's Day drag show, but we still got married at the end of it. And it was so beautiful to be able to celebrate in our way, because we didn't really have a traditional marriage at all either. We got married barefoot in front of a tree at a bed and breakfast that I worked at, and all of our wedding party came in holding pieces of our altar that we assembled. Our first dance was on a rug in the side yard of the bed and breakfast, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I never thought, I always knew I was going to get married from the time I was little. I've always wanted to be a dad. I've always wanted to be a parent. I've wanted to be in that nuclear family. But we made it happen, and we made it happen our way, because we don't want a traditional marriage. Like, we're polyamorous, and so our third partner lives with us, and they were in our wedding, but we still did the whole traditional marriage our way, which I think is why marriage equality exists. So, yeah.
Well, is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you'd like to include in your narrative so far?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to move the camera now. I'm
Okay.
going to stop the recording, and oh, this must be. Do you want to stop cloud recording?